Needing some encouragement to break through your now? Here's what Life Coach Sloan says. Change the way that you think and you will alter the entire course of your life.
You're tuned into Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan. Remember, if you change the way that you think, you will alter the entire course of your life. This morning, we have a great episode for the next two shows. It's going to consist of me and my daughter, Miss Matika Cherry, as we talk about fixing my perfect life. We're going to talk about the journey of a mother and a daughter, and some things that go along with the journey of parenting and a daughter, and particularly if you're parenting alone as a mother, meaning there's no father figure in the home or present in the rearing process consistently. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to sort of unravel and unpack some things so that we can help mothers and
daughters
to work through their process on their journey and make sure that both parties, mother and daughter, both have the best experience that they can have. So, Matika, where are you from originally?
I am from Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Oh, a little small city called Kannapolis.
Yes.
Okay, so you were you born in Kannapolis?
No, I was born in Georgia.
Okay, you were. Absolutely. My daughter was born in Georgia because at the time that I was having Matika, or pregnant with Matika, I had gone through a separation with her dad, and I had moved and relocated with my mother to Ellenwood, Georgia, and we were going to live there. I was going to live there, but I didn't know that I was pregnant. And because I was going through a separation that was much needed for me mentally and psychologically, I was devastated to find out that I was pregnant. But because there was no alternative, I guess, basically, nothing else to do but have the baby. I ended up having the baby, and I relocated back to North Carolina to work on this marriage that had gone south because of a lot of different issues. And because we're not here to necessarily address those issues, there's no need in this segment for me to highlight it. However, later on this year, I'm probably going to highlight it just to encourage women while they're on that journey. So Matika was 2, I believe. She was young, so she tells me all the time she doesn't remember her childhood. And I think she was 2 when her father and I finally disconnected. It was October 1998. I left. So I remember clearly it was the end of October, so Matika would have been a little over 2. And from that point, we never ever lived together ever again. So Matika, as a daughter, how did you feel? I know you don't recall at 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, but what age do you think you start realizing that your father wasn't really present?
I want to say whenever I was in elementary school.
Elementary. So that's around the time that we as children start to analyze our life and see where we are and where we're going. And when you started to realize it, did you have any emotions at that point? Because I was remarried at that time, and Matika did have a male figure in the home, but she was aware that wasn't her biological father. So did you start having internal issues or feelings at that time, or you still didn't really notice the difference of not having him present?
At that time, I didn't notice that he wasn't present because I had someone else to look up to. Okay,
so with that being said, how significant was it? Do you think it would have been a major difference in your life if you didn't have any father figure there for that part of your journey?
Yes, I do believe it would have been a major difference.
And so when you say a major difference, how do you think it would have been different for you?
Because I wouldn't really know what to look for in a man.
Okay, so one of the things that's sticking out in this conversation is that as a young girl, they look to their father to present to them what a man should look like or what they should look for in a man. So with that being said, I was married, so we had a father in the home. However, that marriage dissolved. for different reasons. And so what happened? What did you feel when that marriage dissolved as a girl that went from not having a daddy to having a daddy to not having a daddy? Like, you sort of kind of went back and forth. How did you feel at that point?
I felt like I was the problem, that neither one wanted to be there.
Neither father wanted to be there?
Right. Because my dad wasn't there. Then I had somebody that was there that chose to leave. So I then began to feel like it was my fault.
And so the part of parenting that kids begin to carry with them is kids start to carry, and parents, but kids mainly because they're the ones that have to grow up and replicate these behaviors. They start to carry a guilt for a life that they weren't really responsible for. And as a result of that guilt, they start to think they are indeed the problem. And when you think you're the problem, you start to feel like there's something about you that's not right. And because you're a minor child, you don't know what that something is. So you continue to seek and operate in different areas of life, experiencing a different side of you because you want to know what about you isn't right. And this is a good place for us to just take a small break and come back, because what we're going to do, we're going to dive into this journey so that you guys can see what it's really like being a mother and a daughter on a journey and doing your best to bring that child into the fullness of who they are. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, you all, and I'm with my daughter Matika Cherry, and we're talking about the Fix My Perfect Life. We're dealing with the mother and the daughter relationship of the single mother that is parenting the single daughter or the daughter, and looking for that child to meet some different objectives in life, and hoping that you're going to just do a great job. And let me just interject here that so many mothers spend their life with the desire of wanting their daughter to do so much better than them, and the pressure of wanting them to exceed where you were in life. It can cause us to be judgmental, it can cause us to be very critical, and it can cause us to somehow live vicariously or attempt to live vicariously through our children. So a lot of times we push and pry them to do things that maybe we felt like if we would have done differently, we would have ended up on a different path. So Matika, you said that at the point where the marriage dissolved with your stepdad, at that point you felt like that it was you went from having a daddy to no longer having a daddy.
Right.
So when you had that encounter, because we didn't discuss this, like this is the first time we're really just hammering these things out. So you guys, she's getting this live just like you guys are. This is not pre-taped or premeditated. This is all straight from real life, because that's the way I like to coach. I don't like to coach from a false pretense and give people the idea that we manipulated the conversation. This is all pure dialogue. The pauses are real, the thoughts are real, because I want you guys to know how important it is to have this conversation with your daughter so that you can help everybody just have a harmonious and peaceful life. So you felt like whenever the second marriage dissolved that you were
the problem.
So how do you think feeling like you were the problem started to transfer into your life? Like, how do you think feeling that way caused you to act in life?
They both left.
So when they left, what did you think when they left? What did you think as it relates to you?
That I was the problem.
But how? What did you think you were doing that you could be the problem for adults making adult decisions?
Misbehaving and not doing what my stepdad told me to do.
So you felt like because you were disobedient?
That was the reason that he left.
So was there anything that perhaps, did I convey that to you, or was that a feeling that you had on your own?
A feeling that I got on my own.
Because Matika there was a big argument over some things Matika had done. So Matika had no clue of the extent of this argument because we tried to have the argument with her not physically being present. So what I did as the mother, I felt like my role was to protect my daughter, which means that whenever you're married to somebody and it's not your child's father or mother, sometimes as a parent you feel like your role is to prevent that person from mistreating your child, because in real life a lot of parents struggle with treating stepchildren properly or treating stepchildren as they would their own biological children. And that's not making a negative disclaimer. That's a real life scenario that people struggle differentiating between the child that I helped conceive and the child that was preconceived prior to our marriage. And that became a real issue because at that point, Matika lost contact. Like, you didn't have contact with the spouse at that time, and then you were having poor communications with your dad. What was really, now at this point you're going into middle school, so what's going on in your head at this point?
I felt like no one loved me,
because
or I wasn't good enough for them to stay and deal with me. Okay,
so because middle school is whenever you really started acting out. I seen behaviors that was totally like mind-blowing. And as a general rule, I believe little girls and little boys somewhere between 6th and 7th grade are in the middle of an identity crisis. So I believe that their behaviors become unacceptable as a growing process. So not only were we dealing with, I'm in the middle school era and I feel like I'm growing up and I don't want to hear what you have to say, you're also dealing with the fact that I'm angry because I have 2 men in my life that have left me and I'm still expected to function as normal. She was still expected to be a little girl, still expected to go to school, stay out of trouble. And how was trouble in middle school? Like, be honest.
It was terrible. I was bad. I was disobedient. I didn't listen to anybody, my teachers, my mom, my grandma.
And how would you share, like, with a mother out there who has a daughter that's in middle school right now? Because I've had mothers contact me and that's the real life. Their daughters are taking them through some extreme situations. What would you say to that mother or that daughter? What would you say to the daughter that's out there that's taking their mom through that situation?
It's not worth it, because everything that they tell us is just something that we need to know.
So what's not worth it?
Being disobedient, not listening, doing whatever you want to do, because all of it comes with consequences.
And that's the part I think Matika didn't get. I really don't think that my child thought that life had consequences, because what happened is I tried to shield her from consequences of life. And most of the time, as a matter of fact, almost 100% of the time in those parts of her journey, I actually saved her from real life consequences. So she didn't get to have some of the blunts of the consequences that she would have had I not been present. But my issue with that is, because there is an issue, I created a greater demise for her because she came up with this false ideology that there weren't any consequences, and she started to behave in a way that says I don't have consequences and I don't have to be concerned about them. So all of these things that I thought was great were actually causing demise. So you guys, we're going to take a small break and come right back. Just stay tuned. If you got a neighbor or friend, give them a call and tell them to tune in.
We'll be right back with Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan. Now, back to Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan.
Good morning again. Welcome back to Breaking Through Your Now. This is your life coach, Sybil Sloan, and I'm here with my daughter, Matika Cherry, and we are talking about fixing my perfect life, just because I think people look at Sybil Sloan, the life coach, and they really think that my life is perfect, or they think my life is without flaws and blemishes, just because coaches learn how to really put their lives in perspective so that whatever we deal with, we let a coach the coach. So typically we're coached offline by another coach that sort of kind of makes sure we are able to still be fueled and give out what we need to help you guys, the public, and those that are seeking help from us. So we were talking about before the break how that parents make a decision sometimes. In this particular instance, I divorced and you felt some kind of way and you were acting out and you were telling the young girls about consequences. And I talked about how I think that I shielded you from consequences, and you actually started to think life didn't have consequences. And I think that went on for how many years?
Probably until high school.
So
High school.
Into high school, you felt like once you got into high school or throughout high school?
Maybe once I got to high school.
Yeah, because I remember you had one encounter and I just told you, I'm not protecting you anymore. Do you remember that conversation? Not really?
No, I don't.
And I do think Matika has some type of selective memory, and I'm not being facetious. I really believe that there are some major points in her journey where she has chosen to block out remembering, and that's natural. I'm not a psychologist by any means, but I know that in psychology, we have certain pain points in our life, and we will put blocks in that area of our life so we can pretend like it never happened. But there were some major situations that went on in high school that I was floored, I was overwhelmed, and I really didn't know how to deal with it. I mean, I legitimately did not know as a mother how to overcome the objectives. I think we went to counseling.
Yes.
I think she was in middle school when we did counseling. Going middle school, maybe 7th grade, we did counseling. We did respite. I took her to respite because I thought that was going to help her change her behavior. But what happened when you went to respite?
I had fun.
Yeah, right. What else happened that made it fun instead of corrective?
Actually, before I had fun, it was actually tough because I felt really bad. Like, oh no, my mom is really leaving me. I don't know these people. I don't know these kids. I have to sleep here. I have to bathe here. It was hard. I had to eat here. I didn't have a choice of what I wanted to eat, what time I wanted to go to bed, when I had to wake up. It was like boot camp.
Right. Now, that was her first encounter because she was emotionally devastated. But when I came back to pick her up, she was smiling, and I was like, I don't think we accomplished the mission. And it's because she has this personality that people are drawn to. So what did they ask you to do at respite with the other kids?
They asked me to talk to them and to help them with their situations because they knew that I didn't belong there. Although I was acting out, I didn't belong there.
And I'm still struggling with why they would tell you didn't belong there. If I brought you there, you belonged there.
Because they felt like I had potential to be good.
Okay, so you shouldn't be there.
I shouldn't be there.
Okay, because I think that's a better choice of words, because respite is if the parent feels like, well, in North Carolina, they used to have a program before the state shut it down, that if the parent was at their limit, my limit was way up here, but the limit should probably be here, because by the time you're here, the anger and the frustration of being at that place is worse because you begin to say verbally harsh things to your child that's rude, that they're going to suffer to recover from. So I didn't want respite to be a fun place. I wanted it to be a redirecting place, but instead they wanted Matika to talk to the other kids about why they shouldn't make bad decisions or why they should obey their parents. And I still just don't think that the full effect of what the program was supposed to do, I'm still up in arms about the real effect. How did you think respite? Did you think it helped you?
Not really. Sort of it did, but I also knew, I was smart enough to know that if I showed them that I was being good, that they would call you to come and pick me up.
Okay, so at this point, now you started to practice manipulation.
Right.
So you were there at that place, and you didn't have a problem showing me your other side, but you did when you went there. You showed them that I'm actually a good kid. So what did you want them to think, that I just was making this stuff up about you?
Parts of me did, yes, I did.
And what did you think you were going to accomplish by telling them that or showing them a different side of you? What was the goal?
To get back home.
So was your goal ever just to make them think my mom's a liar?
No, I was just ready to get back home so I could eat, sleep, and get back to what I was doing.
And so that's the thing that I think that the children don't understand. Their behaviors start to become very very manipulative and deceptive, and because they don't understand that they're being deceptive, they don't realize that they're falling into the trap. And this is where the deception starts, and this is where it starts to tear away from the parents. And we're going to be right back, you guys, well, in just a moment, but keep it locked in right here. Again, call your neighbor, call your sister, call your cousin, and let them know that we're on Breaking Through Your Now, and we are helping each other in life fix our perfect life.
We'll be right back with Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan. Now, back to Breaking Through Your Now with Sybil Sloan.
Welcome back to Breaking Through Your Now with your life coach, Sybil Sloan. And again, I'm here with my daughter, Matika Cherry. And for those of you who just tuned in, we're talking about fixing my perfect life. And we were just talking about the consequences of going to the respite and how respite impacted her life in a way that I thought was supposed to help her, but it actually influenced her to feel like it was necessary for her to practice being deceptive or manipulative and causing the people at respite to believe that she perhaps were not exhibiting some of the behaviors that I spoke about. And she also said that the actions led her to hang with, you said, the wrong group of people?
Yes.
So when you say the wrong group of people, what does that mean?
People where their parents allowed them to do whatever they wanted to.
And so when you hung with them, where did you hang with them at?
School.
Okay.
And sometimes after school.
Okay, so Matika, of course, we went through a journey there where she was doing some things that clearly was not acceptable. But what I also started to learn from some of the friends that she hung out with, that their parents allowed them or were aware that they did certain things. And I guess I'm a different parent. If I know that my daughter has a behavior or my child has a behavior that's unacceptable, before I allow somebody else's child to become influenced by that behavior, I will make sure at least the parent knows my child has a tendency to do X, Y, Z. So I just want to make you aware, not so that I could rat out my child, so that if your child's exposed to this and she's not used to this, I want to make you aware of that. And one of the things that Matika definitely experienced that was very scary for all of us is she had a girlfriend that actually their family was aware that the girl she took pills.
Yes.
Her family was aware that she took pills, and one day they bought some pills, I guess, from what happened with do you remember that, or you still have a memory block?
No, I do remember that.
Okay.
It was early in the morning. I had a apparel class, which was a clothing class, which we did stitching and all of that. And I was in the same class with my friend, which her name was Libby. She was a Caucasian girl. And she said, or mentioned to me that she take pills to calm her nerves and that they put her in another place. So I decided to take a pill, and that was probably one of the worst days of my life.
So what pill did you take?
I took a Xanax, and there's a difference between round Xanax and the rectangle Xanax, and it definitely is a difference as to how it make you feel. I was unaware that I was asleep in all my classes. I got the principal called on me, The principal called my mom and asked her, did she know what was going on with me? But I lied to the principal and told her that I just wasn't feeling good, that I had cramps.
And so the guidance counselor called. So even though Matika told a lie to the principal, the guidance counselor called me, and Matika basically communicated to me that that day of her life, she really could not account for that entire day of her life. And it was scary because I knew something was going on, but mentally, like at this point, I knew no way to handle it. And that's where she had a challenge with me, having an issue with her phone and wanting to search her phone and wanting to be in her business, as she called it. But me wanting to be in her business was those type of decisions that she could have killed herself. She did the research, and because a boy at school was selling the pills, right?
Right, on a guy friend.
Yeah, and that really blew my mind. Like, somebody was at school selling pills to people, and these people were taking pills that, what did you say, you researched it and you knew that it was the right pill or something like that, you said?
Yes.
Because
I took my phone out in class and I researched the pill to make sure it was the right pill that he said he was giving me.
Because my issue with her was, how did you know that he wasn't giving you something that could have killed you? And she's like, I looked it up, and at that point, I felt as if I had failed. And I know some of you mothers have been at that point in your life with your child. That was the one place that I was like, I have extremely failed as a mother, because now my child is not only being deceptive, she's not only being manipulative, but she's using drugs. And so you never know where that's going to take you. That's a rabbit hole that once you get in, the results could be different. Of course, I have a spiritual compass, and I prayed and I wanted to kill her, but I didn't even beat her. Like, that time I was so mentally devastated, I felt like that I had lost the mental capacity to be a parent. And we had a man in our life at that point that was very supportive, and he was a counselor. So he took Matika and tried to pretty much walk her through that day, because it was, I would say, the worst experience that a mother would have, because while I'm talking to the counselor, I don't know what to say. Like, I don't know, because she didn't leave my house like that. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to agree to. I just realized that my daughter is in trouble. And when you realize that your child is in trouble and you don't know what else to do, you give up hope. You give out of wind, you give out of gas, and sometimes you lose your own perspective on life. So I just want to encourage a mother right now, because we're about to end this show, but we're going to come back next week with the same topic. I just want to encourage you right now that whatever your child is doing, I just want to remind you that it's not you. I just want to remind you that you're not the reason that your child is doing that. But I'm just going to say, hold on. Like, no matter what life is giving you, I'm encouraging you to hold on. Don't let go. If they have one shred of gleam of hope in their life, hold on to that particular thing. And as you continue to hold on, throughout it, it gets better. Like, I'm here to tell you that it gets better. It doesn't necessarily become perfect, but it gets better, and you'll find your way through it. So remember, you guys, that if you change the way that you think, you will alter the entire course of your life. And we will see you back next week, the same station, same time.